Hello, BookTube. The first mail haul of the week was 2 boxes. No envelopes of any kind, just 2 boxes. So it's small, but it's packed. So shall we see what's in them? Let's take a look. We'll start off our mail week slow with 2 boxes. Let's see what this first one is. One is bigger than the other. Boxes almost always mean finished copies, so that's good. Let's see what we have here. Okay. All right. This is from Princeton University Press. They are rapidly growing in my esteem. I've always loved them. I love the major academic presses. Oxford, Yale, Harvard, Hopkins, Chicago, and also Princeton. Princeton, I guess I'm on more of their mailing list now than I was 20 years ago, and so I'm becoming more and more familiar with their editorial vision. And I like it. I like it very much. Especially, well, look, this is one that I did not receive before. I don't think I ever got an advance copy of this, and it's of immediate interest to me. In a number of different ways. When you think like a reviewer or even like a veteran reader, your eye looks to a whole bunch of things. Does the subject interest you? Does the length look like it can do the subject justice? And also, what about the author? And my eyes immediately went to the author of this book. This is called The Dictionary Wars by Peter Martin. And the subtitle is The American Fight Over the English Language. And that is a fascinating subject on its own. But Peter Martin wrote a great biography of James Boswell, the biographer of Samuel Johnson. He wrote a great biography. So when I talk on this channel about authors who have credit in the bank, he has all the credit in the world for that. It's really, really tough. When you're writing biographies, one surefire indication that you have done a really good job is if you can compete with your subject when they have already written a biography of themselves. And Boswell wrote journals his whole life, journals and personal autobiographical sketches his whole life, and they are enthralling reading. They're gross. They're really, really gross. He spares no low blows to himself. He is a pointillist portrait painter of himself, and none of us can really survive that, and he doesn't. It's fantastic. I can't recommend the experience of reading Boswell's journals highly enough. I know I venerate The Life of Johnson, the enormous bagatelle biography that he did of Samuel Johnson. I venerate that book, of course. But Johnson's books on himself are every bit as interesting, maybe even more so. And when you read, not to get off topic right away here, but when you read Johnson's journals about himself, or for instance, the off-color parts of Pepys's diary about himself, also mercilessly about himself, when you read stuff like that, and the prose is beautiful, and the insights are withering, and the subject is the writer himself, you start to get, now I don't mean to sling mud at the most popular person in the world, but you start to get a very more jaundiced view of a book like Michelle Obama's, which is the #1 best-selling book of 2019, fiction and nonfiction, which has gone back to the printer 80 million times, which has sold 2 copies for every individual human on Earth, and which is an anodyne and charming book. But what wouldn't you give for a Michelle Obama book about Michelle Obama, written like Boswell writes about himself? We all have those moments. I guess it can be done in many different ways. I don't. If you're going to write such a scrubbed, clean, glowing, morning light in the kitchen nook account of your life, then what's the point? What's the point of doing that when you have sycophants who will do that for you the minute your corpse is cold? I guess maybe the point is to do it yourself. My larger point is, for the beginning of this digression, is that Peter Martin actually succeeds in holding your attention in his life of James Boswell away from James Boswell's own writing about his life, at least for the length of his book. You'll go right back to Johnson's London Journal the minute you're done. An unsung classic of English letters, Johnson's London Journal. I don't quite know why proximity has not elevated it. It's right there alongside The Life of Johnson, and The Life of Johnson is widely considered to be a great classic of English nonfiction. But Boswell's London Diary, to name just one part of the diaries that he kept his whole life, to name just that, is not elevated to that level. I don't get that. But anyway, so my larger point was that Peter Martin has a lot of credit in the bank, which I could have said in one sentence, I realize. Let's see here. And in this book, he recounts the patriotic fervor in the early American Republic to produce a definitive national dictionary that would rival Samuel Johnson's 1755 Dictionary of the English Language. Martin tells the human story of the intense rivalry between America's first lexicographers, Noah Webster and Joseph Emerson Worcester, who fought over who could best represent the soul and identity of American culture. And believe you me, Webster fought in the gutters. This seems like a very abstruse and bloodless conflict, but Webster knew that it meant money, and he fought. There's a great biography of him that captures something of what he was like. Unfortunately, for every one biography of Noah Webster, we have. Anyway, let's see here. Webster believed an American dictionary, like the American language, ought to be informed by the nation's Republican principles. But Worcester thought that such language reforms were reckless and went too far. Their conflict continued beyond Webster's death when the no-nonsense Merriman brothers acquired publishing rights to Webster's American Dictionary and launched their own language wars. So that is fantastic. That is a perfect author to write about this subject. And this comes out in late May. So it's still a while away. I'm getting. That's another thing that Princeton is tending to endear themselves to me with, is they're getting me finished copies well ahead of time, and that's great because in addition to being a reviewer, I have many different venues, and I also have, praise be, a venue of my own. I have Open Letters, which is a venue of my own. But in addition to that, where I can review whatever I want, I also am an editor, and it's nice to get a finished copy of a book that someone might want to review for you well ahead of time instead of the week of. So that's great. All right, so that is one of our books. I imagine there's only going to be two books here. So the next box is bigger and yet lighter. So this may be an advance copy that somebody just thought it was a better idea to put in a box. Let's see what we have here. Oh. Oh. Okay. All right. I don't have a pub sheet for this thing, but that's all right. Okay. Fantastic. All right. This comes out in late August, and it is another book to add. Remember when we saw that Susan Sontag book, or the book on General Marshall, or The Shadow King about Henry VI? We are gradually, as our focus shifts further and further towards the autumn, we are gradually starting to see the first tricklings of the tsunami of oversized biographies that hit the American book market every autumn. We see had only a few of those so far, and I love them, of course. Biography is my favorite genre, and really long, big, soup to nuts biographies are my favorite kind of my favorite genre, where the author has done a huge amount of research and wants to convey not just a person but a world. I love that kind of thing, and I have heard about this next book for quite some time when it was selling like hotcakes in a language I cannot read, or only very spottily read, and that is this. This is Tom Segev, A State at Any Cost, The Life of David Ben-Gurion, which was a bestseller, and here it is translated from the Hebrew by Chaim Watzman. So I'm just going to read you from the book here. When this biography of David Ben-Gurion was published in Israel in early 2018, it was a major event, making headlines and earning nationwide coverage in the New York Times and elsewhere. The culmination of a lifetime's work, A State at Any Cost cast the history of Israel and its founder in a bracing new light. Using large amounts of previously unrevealed archival material, the author demonstrates Ben-Gurion's power, skills, and achievements, as well as his limitations, weaknesses, and failures. The author's probing account reveals for the first time Ben-Gurion's secret negotiation with the British on the eve of Israel's independence, his willingness to countenance the forced transfer of Arab neighbors, and his relative indifference to the state of Jerusalem and Israel's nuclear program, and his occasional nutty moments, from UFO sightings to a plan for Israel to acquire territory in South America. The author shows that Ben-Gurion first heard about the Holocaust from a Palestinian Arab acquaintance, and reveals his tempestuous private life, including the testimony of 4 longtime lovers. Many admired Ben-Gurion in his day, and many now miss his vision and inspiration, his boldness and integrity. Others have vilified him as an aggressor, divisive, dour, and even capricious politician, but only a few have really grasped the most intimate and guarded aspects of his complex character, the man behind the myth. As in his 7 previous books on Israel and the Holocaust, which have been translated into 14 languages, Segev again offers a vibrant page-turner with unexpected discoveries and original insights. And I have been hearing about this book. I have one particular burr under the saddle friend of mine in Tel Aviv who loves to taunt me with books that have not been translated into English and that may never be. And we were wondering, this thing is what, 1,000 pages? 800? We were wondering if an 800-page biography of Ben-Gurion would ever get translated. And we were thinking it would be way down the line. Of course, the yardstick, the horrible yardstick I use for all of these is that a long time ago, a great scholar named Jacques Le Goff wrote a big 1,000-page biography of St. Louis. And I was salivating for it, and it was nowhere to be found. And I eventually had a friend get me a copy from Paris, just in French. And I think it was 15 years before that book was translated into English. I guess this is a slightly different thing, because there are a lot more irons in the fire even now. This is still, in some ways, a very current story. So, but I am so happy to see this. This comes out in August, in late August, right on the doorstep of September. And this is yet another one of the doorstop biographies. There'll be a whole bunch of them, more than you could fit in one video. But so far, we're up to about 5. And this is one of them. So I'm very happy to see it, very happy to dig into it. I, of course, will not be waiting until August to read this thing. I've waited long enough. So that's it. That was the beginning of our week. 2 nonfiction books, and one of deep interest because of the author, and the other just an overwhelming Steve book, something I want to get to right away. So we have The Dictionary Wars by Peter Martin. Now, Peter Martin, I want to also stress, if my opening kettle drum peroration did not already do it, I want to stress that if you see his biography of James Boswell, and you're interested in the subject, by all means, it gets a Steve recommendation. It's a fantastic biography. And also, I might add that if you are in a flea market or a yard sale or something, you've come across a battered old paperback of Boswell's London Diary, pay the 25 cents. You're really going to enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. So we have this book, The Dictionary Wars, which is a fascinating subject. It was covered in that earlier biography of Noah Webster from like 30 years ago. So we very much need a new volume. And A State at Any Cost, a huge new biography of David Ben-Gurion, a bestseller in Israel, and got a lot of smart people talking about what kind of a portrait it is of the man. I can't wait. I, in fact, won't wait. So there you go. That is our first mail haul of the week. An unqualified success. We shall see if the rest of the mail hauls in the week hold up this tone. I hope they do. I will let you know. You'll be the first to know, in fact. So I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.